The Galactic Council Chamber was never silent. It was the most powerful place in the galaxy. Hundreds of alien species gathered there. Voices were always loud. Arguments never stopped. Deals were made. Threats were given. Power was shown. But today, there was silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Something was wrong. The massive circular chamber, built from shining metal and crystal, was filled with delegates from every corner of the galaxy. Tall beings, small creatures, insect-like forms, and strange glowing entities all sat in their places. But no one was speaking. At the center of the room, a giant holographic galaxy slowly rotated. Red warning lights flashed across several star systems. War was coming. Everyone knew it. That was why this meeting had been called. Emergency peace talks. And there was only one species that could stop what was coming. Humans. For the past 10 years, humans had changed everything. They were new compared to the ancient alien races. But they were fast. Very fast. Too fast. They learned quickly. They adapted faster than anyone expected. They built powerful fleets in a short time. And worst of all, they did not think like anyone else. They were unpredictable. And that made them dangerous. A tall insect-like delegate clicked its sharp claws against the table, breaking the silence. "They are late," it said, its voice filled with tension. "They will come." A deep, echoing voice replied from across the chamber. A large reptilian leader leaned forward, his glowing eyes focused on the entrance. "They must come." But even he did not sound confident. Minutes passed. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, the doors opened. A low mechanical sound echoed through the chamber as the massive gates slowly slid apart. All eyes turned. 3 figures walked in. Humans. They did not rush. They did not hesitate. They walked in calmly, like they belonged there. At the front was a woman, Commander Elena Hayes. Her uniform was simple but perfect. Dark blue, clean lines, small medals on her chest. Nothing flashy. Nothing unnecessary. But her presence filled the room. Her face was calm. Too calm. Her eyes moved across the chamber, watching every alien, every reaction. Behind her walked 2 officers. One carried a stack of data tablets. The other held a small sealed case. None of them looked nervous. None of them looked afraid. That was the first mistake the council noticed. Humans were not afraid. They walked straight to the center of the chamber. No greeting. No bow. No respect. Just silence. The reptilian council leader finally spoke. "Humans," he said slowly, his voice heavy with authority, "you understand why you are here." Elena did not answer immediately. She looked around the chamber again. She saw something clearly. Fear. Not power. Not control. Fear. That changed everything. Finally, she spoke. "Yes," she said calmly. "We understand." The leader continued. "War is coming. It will destroy many systems. We have called for peace talks. We expect cooperation." The word cooperation echoed slightly in the chamber. Every alien waited. This was the moment. This was where humans would agree. This was where peace would begin. But Elena's expression did not change. Not even a little. Instead, she said something that broke the entire room. "We are not here to cooperate." For a second, no one reacted. It was like the words did not exist. Then everything exploded. "That is unacceptable," one delegate shouted. "You do not have that choice," another screamed. "War will destroy you," a third voice warned. The chamber filled with noise again. But this time it was not normal. This time it was panic. The council leader slammed his hand down, silencing the room. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his voice now sharp and dangerous. Elena looked directly at him. Her voice stayed calm, controlled, clear. "Humanity has reviewed your proposal," she said. "We refuse all peace terms." The words hit harder this time. No confusion. No misunderstanding. Just truth. Shock spread across every face. Even the oldest species in the room looked surprised. "No species refuses the council," someone whispered. "But humans just did." The leader leaned forward, anger rising. "You are making a mistake," he said. Think carefully. This is your last chance. Elena did not even pause. We already did. Then she nodded to the officer beside her. The man stepped forward and placed a small device on the center table. It activated instantly. A hologram appeared above it. At first, it looked normal. Star maps, fleet positions. Nothing unusual. Then the data updated. And everything changed. Dozens of human fleets appeared across the galaxy. But they were not in defensive positions. They were moving. Forward. Fast. Organized. Prepared. A quiet fear spread across the chamber. What is this? Someone asked softly. Elena answered. This is reality. The hologram zoomed in. Target points appeared. Strategic locations. Important systems. Council-controlled zones. Every single one marked. The council leader's eyes widened slightly. You plan this? He asked. Elena did not smile. But her next words were worse than any threat. We didn't come here to talk, she said. A pause. Long enough for everyone to understand. Then, we came to inform you. The silence returned. But this time, it was heavier, darker, more dangerous. Elena turned around. No fear. No hesitation. She simply started walking away. Her officers followed. Step by step. Calm. Controlled. Final. No one stopped them. No one could. The massive doors opened again. And the humans walked out. The chamber remained frozen. No one spoke. No one moved. The hologram still floated above the table, showing the same terrifying truth. Human fleets already in motion. Then, slowly, someone whispered. They were never here for peace. And that was the moment the Galactic Council began to panic. For a few long seconds after the humans left, no one moved. The Galactic Council chamber, once full of noise and power, now felt cold and empty. The hologram still floated above the central table, glowing softly in the dim light. Human fleets, moving with purpose. Not random. Not defensive. Planned. The silence finally broke when a small amphibian delegate spoke, its voice shaking. They are bluffing. No one answered, because deep down everyone knew humans did not bluff. The reptilian council leader slowly stood up from his seat. His heavy tail moved across the floor with a low sound. His glowing eyes were locked on the hologram. Analyze the data, he ordered. Instantly, multiple alien technicians began working. Their consoles lit up. Streams of information flowed across the air in bright symbols and unknown languages. At first, they searched for errors. Maybe the data was fake. Maybe the humans were trying to scare them. Maybe this was just a show. But the deeper they looked, the worse it became. This is real, one technician said quietly. Another one added. Fleet signatures confirmed. Energy patterns match human vessels. A third voice, more nervous than the others, spoke up. These movements started hours ago, before this meeting even began. That statement hit the chamber like a shockwave. Before the meeting? That meant one thing. Humans had already made their decision. The peace talks were never an option. The council leader's expression darkened. Expand the scan, he commanded. The hologram changed. Zooming out. Showing more of the galaxy. More systems lit up. More human fleets appeared. Some near trade routes. Some near defense lines. Some dangerously close to council core worlds. It was not an attack yet, but it was positioning. Perfect positioning. They are surrounding us, a delegate whispered. Panic began to grow again. But this time it was deeper. Real. A tall, thin alien with glowing eyes stood up suddenly. This makes no sense, it shouted. Why would humans reject peace? They gain nothing from war. That question hung in the air. Because it was true. War would cost everyone, even humans. So why choose it? The answer came from an unexpected place. One of the data analysts froze. Its multiple eyes focused on a new set of information. Wait, it said slowly. There is more data here. Display it, the council leader ordered. The hologram shifted again. But this time, it wasn't showing human fleets. It was showing council data. Private data. Classified data. Information that was never meant to be seen by outsiders. The chamber grew tense. Where did this come from? Someone asked. No one answered. Because they already knew. Humans. The data began to scroll. Secret agreements between powerful species. Hidden military expansions. Unregistered weapon systems. Plans that were never shared with the full council. The atmosphere changed instantly. This is false, one delegate shouted quickly. It must be manipulated, but the systems confirmed something terrifying. Data authenticity verified. The words echoed like a death sentence. One by one, more secrets appeared. A plan to weaken human colonies after the treaty. A strategy to divide human forces. Even a hidden timeline for betrayal. The truth was now impossible to hide. The peace talks were never real. They were a trap. A slow, careful trap designed to control humanity. And humans had found out. The chamber exploded into chaos. You planned this without us, one species shouted at another. This was necessary, came the angry reply. You would have started a war. No. We would have ended a threat. Voices clashed. Accusations filled the air. The unity of the council began to crack. The leader slammed his hand down again, trying to restore order. Silence, he roared. Slowly, the noise faded. But the damage was done. Trust was broken. Fear had taken control. The leader looked back at the hologram, at the human fleets, at the exposed secrets. And, for the first time in many years, he felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. They knew, he said quietly. No one argued. They knew everything, he continued. A heavy realization settled over the chamber. Humans had not just refused peace. They had understood the truth behind it. And they had chosen their response carefully. A small voice spoke from the side. What do we do now? No one had a clear answer. Because for the first time, the Galactic Council was not in control. Another update appeared on the hologram. More human fleets entering key systems. Closer now. Faster. More precise. A technician spoke with rising fear. They are not waiting, it said. They are executing a plan. The word plan made everything worse. Because this was not emotional. Not a reaction. This was calculated. Every movement had purpose. Every second mattered. They prepared this long ago, someone whispered. The council leader slowly sat down again. His mind racing. For centuries, the council had controlled the galaxy through power, strategy, and secrets. They believed they understood every species, every behavior, every possible outcome. But humans were different. They did not follow patterns. They created them. They learned from us, the leader said quietly. And now they're using it against us. No one disagreed. The hologram pulsed again. A new message appeared. Simple, clear, direct. Phase 1 complete. The chamber went completely silent again. But this time, it was not confusion. It was fear. Real fear. Because if this was only phase 1, then something much bigger was coming. And the worst part? The humans had already walked away. They were not negotiating. They were not listening. They were not stopping. One final thought spread across every mind in the chamber. If humans refused peace, then what exactly had they chosen instead? And for the first time in galactic history, no one had the answer. The message still floated in the center of the chamber. Phase 1 complete. No one spoke. No one even moved. Because now it was clear. This was not chaos. This was not fear. This was a plan. A perfect plan. The Galactic Council had spent centuries building power. They believed they understood war better than anyone. They had rules, systems, and strategies passed down for generations. But humans did not follow old rules. They made new ones. Far away from the council chamber, across the vast darkness of space, human fleets moved like shadows. Silent, fast, precise. There was no shouting, no panic, only calm voices and clear commands. Inside one of the largest human command ships, a young officer stood in front of a glowing display. His hands moved quickly as he tracked fleet movements. All units are in position, he said. Behind him, Commander Elena Hayes stood with her arms crossed, watching everything. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp, focused. "Report on outer systems," she said. The officer nodded. "Minimal resistance. Most defenses are inactive or unprepared. We have taken control of 3 key routes without engagement." Elena gave a small nod. "Good. Maintain speed. No unnecessary damage." That order surprised many new officers when they first heard it. No unnecessary damage. This was not a war of destruction. This was something else. Something smarter. On another screen, a different officer spoke. "Enemy communication channels are unstable. Council forces are not responding in coordination." Elena looked at the display. Small lights blinked across the map. Alien fleets trying to move, trying to react. But they were too slow. Too late. "They are confused," the officer added. Elena spoke quietly. "Of course they are." Because this was the part the Council never expected. Humans had not just built fleets. They had studied everything. For years, human scientists, soldiers, and analysts had watched the galaxy. They observed how alien species fought, how they communicated, how they made decisions, and most importantly, how they depended on control. The Council believed in order, clear leadership, central command. But that was also their weakness, because once that order was broken, everything collapsed. Signal interference holding steady, another officer reported. "We have successfully disrupted their main communication network." That was phase 1. Not an attack, not a battle. Control. Humans had quietly entered key systems and blocked communication lines between Council fleets. Now, alien forces could not talk to each other properly. They could not coordinate. They could not react as one. They were alone. And alone, they were weak. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, panic was growing fast. "They are cutting our communication," one delegate shouted. "I cannot reach my fleet," another cried. "This is impossible," a third voice added. But it was happening, right in front of them. The Council leader stood up again, his movement sharper now. "Restore the network," he ordered. Technicians worked faster, their hands moving across glowing panels. But nothing changed. "They're blocking everything," one said. "We cannot reconnect." "How?" the leader demanded. No answer came, because no one understood it fully. Human technology was not stronger, not bigger, but it was different, flexible, adaptive, unpredictable. While alien systems followed strict patterns, human systems changed constantly. They learned, in real time, that made them impossible to control. A new report appeared on the main display. "Multiple defense lines have been bypassed," a technician announced. "Bypassed," the leader repeated. "Yes. Human fleets are not attacking directly. They are moving around strong positions, targeting weak points instead." That was another difference. Most species showed strength by attacking the strongest enemy forces. Humans did the opposite. They avoided unnecessary fights. They chose efficiency over pride. They didn't need to prove power. They only needed results. "They are dismantling us," someone whispered. "System by system. Route by route. Control point by control point." The Council was not being destroyed. It was being taken apart. Carefully. Slowly. Perfectly. Back on the human command ship, another update came in. "Phase 2 ready," the officer said. Elena stepped forward slightly. "Status. All strategic systems are under observation. Enemy fleets are isolated. No large-scale response detected." She looked at the hologram. Everything was moving exactly as planned. Years of preparation. Years of patience. All leading to this moment. "Begin phase 2, she said. There was no hesitation. No doubt. Just action. Across the galaxy, human fleets changed direction. Not forward. Not backward. But deeper. Closer to the heart of Council power. They were not just controlling space anymore. They were moving towards something bigger. Something final. Back in the Council chamber, a sudden alert flashed. "Bright. Urgent. Dangerous. Core systems at risk," a technician shouted. The leader turned sharply. "What does that mean?" The answer came quickly. "Human fleets are approaching central command zones." The room froze. That should not be possible. Those areas were heavily protected, hidden, secure. But somehow, humans had found them. And now they were close. Very close. They are not just fighting, the leader said slowly. They are targeting us. Not their fleets. Not their borders. Them. The ones in control. The ones who planned everything. A deep fear spread across the chamber. Because now it was clear. This was not just war. This was a message. Humans were not trying to survive. They were trying to change the galaxy. And they were doing it step by step. Without panic. Without anger. Without mercy. The hologram pulsed again. Another message appeared. Simple. Cold. Unavoidable. Phase 2 initiated. No one spoke this time. Because now they understood. This was only getting worse. And the most terrifying part? Humans were still in control of everything. The message burned in the air like a warning no one could ignore. Phase 2 initiated. This time, the silence inside the Galactic Council chamber did not last long. It shattered. Completely. Voices exploded from every direction. Fear, anger, confusion, everything mixed together into pure chaos. They are targeting core systems. Our defenses are failing. This is a coordinated assault. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was not in control of the situation. They were reacting. And reacting too late. The reptilian council leader stood in the center, trying to maintain order, but even his powerful presence was no longer enough. Silence, he roared again. But the panic had already begun. Not just in the chamber. Across the galaxy. Far away, in one of the most secure council-controlled star systems, alarm sirens echoed through massive orbital stations. Alien fleets scrambled into formation. Large warships powered up their weapons. Energy shields activated, glowing across the darkness of space. They were ready for a direct attack. But the attack never came. Instead, human ships appeared at the edges of the system. Small groups. Spread out. Not charging forward. Not firing. Just watching. What are they doing? A fleet commander asked, confused. No one answered. Because it didn't make sense. Until it did. Moments later, system alerts began flashing. Navigation systems failing. Defense grid offline. Weapon targeting disrupted. The commander's eyes widened. They are inside our systems. Not physically. Digitally. Human forces had entered their network. Silently. Carefully. And now they were shutting everything down. One by one. Without firing a single shot. Back in the council chamber, more reports flooded in. Defense platforms are unresponsive. Automated fleets are not reacting. We are losing control of our own systems. The words came faster and faster. Each one worse than the last. The council leader clenched his fists. This is impossible, he said under his breath. But it was happening. Right now. Another screen lit up with a live feed. A massive alien warship drifted in space. Its engines were off. Its weapons silent. Around it, human ships moved calmly, surrounding it from a distance. No attack. No destruction. Just control. They are disabling everything, one delegate whispered. And that was the moment something changed. This was not war, as they knew it. There were no massive explosions. No full-scale battles. No chaotic destruction. Instead, it was precise. Controlled. Intentional. Humans were not fighting to destroy. They were fighting to dominate. To take control without wasting energy. Without losing time. Without giving the enemy a chance to respond. And that made it far more terrifying. Back on the human command ship, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Officers moved calmly between stations. No shouting. No panic. Just focused work. Core defense systems collapsing as expected, one officer reported. Enemy fleets remain isolated. No large coordination detected. Elena Hayes stood in front of the main display. Her eyes followed the movement of each fleet. Each step of the plan. Everything was happening exactly as predicted. Any resistance? She asked. Minimal, came the reply. Most systems are unable to respond. She nodded slightly. Continue. There was no celebration. No excitement. Because this was not the end. Not yet. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the situation was getting worse by the second. "They are approaching Central Command Zones," a technician shouted. The leader turned sharply. "How close?" The answer came with visible fear. "Closer than any hostile force has ever been." That sentence hit harder than anything before. Because those zones were not just important. They were untouchable. Or, at least, they were supposed to be. "They should not even know those locations," one delegate said. But they did. Somehow, humans had found everything. Every secret. Every hidden system. Every weakness. And now they were using it. A new alert appeared. Bright red. Urgent. Primary control network compromised. The chamber froze again. That was the heart of everything. The system that connected the council. The system that gave them power. And now, it was failing. "No," the leader said quietly. "This cannot happen." But it already was. Lights flickered. Displays glitched. Communication channels collapsed completely. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council was blind. Panic reached its peak. "We need to retreat. We need to surrender. We need to attack now before it's too late." Different voices shouted different ideas. But none of them had control. Because control was no longer in their hands. It was in human hands. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. The alarms. The flashing lights. The system warnings. Gone. Replaced by silence. A new message appeared on the central hologram. Not chaotic. Not complex. Just simple words. Clear. Cold. Do not resist. The entire chamber stared at it. No one spoke. No one moved. Because now, they understood. This was not a warning. This was a fact. If they resisted, they would lose everything. Not just the war. Everything. The leader slowly stepped forward. His strong presence was still there. But now there was something else in his eyes. Something rare. Fear. "They planned all of this," he said quietly. "Every step." No one disagreed. Because the truth was now clear. Humans had not just prepared for war. They had prepared to win it. Before it even started, the message remained in the air. Do not resist. And for the first time in galactic history, the Council did not know what to do. But deep in the silence, one thought spread across every mind. If this is what humans can do without full war, then what happens if they decide to finish it? And that question was more terrifying than anything else. The message still hovered in the center of the chamber. Do not resist. It was simple. Only 3 words. But it carried more weight than any threat ever spoken in the history of the Galactic Council. No one argued anymore. No one shouted. The chaos was gone, replaced by something far worse. Acceptance. The reptilian council leader stood still, staring at the message. His powerful frame, once a symbol of control and authority, now felt smaller. Not weak, but no longer in charge. Around him, the delegates sat quietly. Some lowered their heads. Others stared at the hologram, unable to look away. For the first time in centuries, the council was not deciding the future. They were waiting for it. Far away, on Earth, inside a secured command center, human leaders gathered around a large table. The room was calm. No alarms. No panic. Only quiet discussion. On a large screen, the galaxy was displayed in full detail. Human-controlled zones glowed softly across it. Key systems were marked. Strategic routes were secured. Everything was in place. Elena's fleet has reached all primary objectives, one officer reported. Council communication remains offline. No coordinated resistance detected. Another voice added, their defense systems are still under our control. They cannot launch a full counterattack. A man standing at the head of the table nodded slowly. He was not a soldier, not in uniform, but his presence was strong. Then we have achieved phase 2, he said. No one celebrated, because they all knew this was the most important moment. Not the victory, the decision. What are your orders, sir? Someone asked. The man looked at the screen. At the galaxy. At the many systems that once believed humans were weak. We end this, he said calmly. But on our terms. Back in space, human fleets held their positions. They did not move forward. They did not attack. They waited. That alone created more pressure than any weapon, because the Council knew if humans moved again, it would not be small. It would be final. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, a new signal suddenly appeared.
Soft.
Controlled.
Clear.
Incoming transmission, a technician said quietly. The leader looked up. From who? The answer came instantly. Human command. The entire room froze again. Slowly, the leader nodded. Display it. The central hologram shifted. The previous message disappeared.
And a new image formed.
Commander Elena Hayes, standing calmly inside her command ship. Her posture was straight. Her expression controlled. But her eyes carried authority now. Not as a visitor, but as someone in control. Galactic Council, she said. Her voice echoed clearly across the chamber. No fear. No anger. Only certainty. You now understand the situation. No one interrupted.
No one dared to.
Elena continued. You plan to control humanity through false peace, through hidden agreements, through betrayal. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably, but no one denied it, because they couldn't. We discovered your plan, she said, and we made our own. The leader stepped forward slightly. What do you want? He asked. The question was simple, but it carried everything. Elena did not answer immediately. She let the silence build. Then she spoke. We don't want your systems. A pause. We don't want your worlds. Another pause. We don't want your power. Now the confusion returned. If not that, then what? Elena's voice became sharper. We want security. The word echoed.
Clear. Direct.
Final. You will no longer interfere with human expansion, she continued. You will not create hidden alliances against us. You will not plan another betrayal. Each sentence hit harder than the last, because now, the Council was the one being given terms, not the other way around. And if we refuse? The leader asked carefully. Elena's expression did not change, but her answer came instantly. You won't. That confidence shook the entire chamber. Because you have already seen what happens when we act, she added. No one argued. They had seen it, felt it, experienced it, system by system, control point by control point, without destruction, without warning, perfect execution. Elena stepped slightly closer to the display. This is not war, she said. It is a correction. That word changed everything. Not revenge. Not conquest. Correction. We are not here to destroy the galaxy, she continued. We are here to make sure it cannot threaten us again. Silence filled the chamber once more. But this time, it was different. This was not fear of the unknown. This was understanding. Humans were not acting out of emotion. They were acting out of logic.
Cold. Clear.
Unstoppable logic. The leader looked around the chamber. At the other delegates. At their faces. Their reactions. He saw it clearly. They had already decided. They just hadn't said it yet. Slowly, he turned back to Elena. What are your final terms? He asked. Elena nodded once. A signal. Immediately, a detailed list appeared on the hologram. New agreements. New rules. New systems of transparency. Every hidden action now forbidden. Every secret military buildup now exposed. Every future decision monitored. Not by the Council, but by shared systems, including humans. The balance of power had changed. Completely. This is your only option, Elena said. Accept and continue. A pause. Or refuse and lose everything. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Final. No threats. No shouting. Just truth. The Council leader closed his eyes for a brief moment. When he opened them again, the decision was already made. We accept, he said. The words echoed across the chamber. And just like that, everything changed. The message ended. The hologram disappeared. But the impact remained. Across the galaxy, human fleets slowly began to adjust their positions. Not advancing. Not attacking. Just watching. Making sure. Because this was not the end. This was the beginning of something new. A new order. A new balance. A new reality. And for the first time, the Galactic Council was no longer at the top. Humans were. And deep in every system, every world, every mind, one truth became clear. Humans did not want control, but they would take it if they had to. The word had already spread.
Fast. Silent.
Unstoppable. Across thousands of star systems, through trade routes, military channels, and civilian networks, one message moved from world to world. The Galactic Council had accepted human terms. At first, many did not believe it. It sounded impossible. For centuries, the Council had been the highest power in the galaxy. No one questioned them. No one challenged them. And no one ever forced them to change. Until now. On distant planets, alien citizens gathered around public displays, watching recorded transmissions. They saw the moment, the silence, the decision. They heard the words, "We accept." And they understood something important. This was not just a political agreement. This was a shift in power. A permanent one. In one busy trading station, a group of merchants stood together, watching the news. They didn't destroy anything, one of them said. Yes, another replied slowly. That's what makes it worse. Because destruction was easy to understand.
War.
Fire.
Loss.
That was normal. But this was different. Humans had taken control without burning the galaxy, without turning it into ruins. They had won without becoming monsters. And that made them something far more dangerous. Something far more respected. Back on Earth, the human command center remained calm. No celebrations. No victory speeches. Just quiet work. Reports continued to come in. Council systems are stabilizing under new protocols. Communication networks restored under shared access. No signs of rebellion or resistance. Everything was moving forward.
Smoothly.
Exactly as planned. Commander Elena Hayes stood near a large window, looking out at the sky. From there, the stars looked peaceful. Normal. But she knew the truth. Everything had changed. A young officer approached her carefully. "Commander," he said, "the council has requested a follow-up meeting." Elena did not turn immediately. "What for?" she asked. "They want guidance," he replied. That word hung in the air. Guidance. Not orders. Not negotiations. Guidance. Elena finally turned, her expression thoughtful. "Send them a response," she said. "Yes, Commander." "Tell them we will attend." The officer nodded and quickly left. Elena looked back at the stars. For years, humanity had been watched.
Judged.
Tested. Other species saw them as new.
As weak.
As easy to control. They were wrong. Not because humans were stronger, but because humans were different. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, things felt strange. Quieter. More controlled. The usual loud arguments were gone. Now discussions were careful. Measured. Every word chosen with caution. The reptilian leader sat in his place, but something had changed in him. He still had authority.
But now,
he understood limits. A delegate spoke from across the chamber. "Human fleets are still present in key systems." Another added, "But they have not advanced further." A third voice said, "They are watching us." The leader nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "And we gave them a reason to." No one argued, because it was true. For too long, the council had relied on secrets, on hidden plans, on control through manipulation. It worked, until it didn't. Until they faced a species that refused to play the same game. A new transmission signal appeared. The chamber grew still. "Human command," a technician announced. The leader took a breath. "Display it." The hologram activated. Elena Hayes appeared once again.
Calm.
Controlled. Watching. "Galactic Council," she said.
Her voice was steady.
"This is not the end." The chamber remained silent. "This is a new beginning," she continued. "A better one, if you choose it." The leader leaned forward slightly. "And if we don't?" he asked. Elena's eyes did not change. "Then you already know what happens." No threat. No emotion. Just truth. The leader nodded slowly. Yes, we do. Across the galaxy, changes began to take shape. Old systems were removed. Hidden operations were shut down. New agreements were built on transparency. For the first time, smaller species had a voice. For the first time, power was shared more fairly. Not perfectly, but better than before. And always, human presence remained. Watching, not controlling everything, but making sure nothing returned to the old ways. On a quiet world near the edge of known space, a young alien child looked up at the night sky. A human ship passed overhead.
Silent. Bright.
Peaceful. The child turned to its parent. "Are humans dangerous?" it asked. The parent thought for a moment, then answered softly, "Yes." A pause. "But only if you give them a reason to be." Back on Earth, Elena stood alone for a moment. No screens. No reports. Just silence. The kind of silence that felt right. Not like before. Not like the silence in the council chamber. This silence meant something else. Balance.
For now.
She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. Focused. Ready. Because she knew something important. This peace was not given. It was earned. And it would need to be protected. Across the galaxy, one truth spread slowly, but clearly. Humans did not fear war. They did not rush into it. They did not avoid it. They prepared for it. Carefully. Silently. Completely. And when the moment came, they acted. Without hesitation. Without warning. Without mercy for those who tried to control them. And from that day forward, every species remembered one simple rule. If humans ask for peace, listen carefully. But if humans walk away from peace, then it is already too late.